The Star Wars Battlefront Entertainment Pack includes all new, limited edition, lighter, slimmer white PSP with Darth Vader art and Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron game. Play on widescreen LCD or on any TV with video out.
Hello and welcome to the GFW Radio podcast. This is the podcast for October 25th, 2007. Yeah, that sounded... Sean's looking at me like, why are you doing your FM radio DJ thing? Hi! What? I'm floundering already.
No, I was just noticing how well you handle it.
Oh.
You got the date down. I always have to look at the calendar to know what day it is.
Actually, we should be confused by the date because we're like 4 days late here. I apologize. We were on deadline. I'm sorry. Give us a break. We had a very tough schedule this month. We barely got through it, but we're done now. It's Thursday afternoon. We have a free day. We got Robert Ashley here again.
Howdy.
What's this business about a free day?
Well, I mean, like, we're not all busy for once. It means we actually have the time to podcast. So we're doing it, and you should get it today. In fact, we're going to actually post it the same day we record. That's how live this is. Wow!
It's pretty awesome.
So introduce yourselves.
Ryan Scott.
Sean Malloy.
Krill.
Krill.
Already introduced, but Robert Ashley.
And Robert Ashley again, who once again brought cookies.
Yes.
If you keep this up, we're just going to invite you back every week.
But the thing is, I'm just going to make you guys my human veal. So get fat. And then I'm going to lock you in a basement for a couple of months.
Good luck getting Ryan Scott fat.
Oh, you sound like just the person to review Manhunt for us.
We were just talking about our weight before we turned the mics on because we had kind of a girl moment. Do these pants make me look fat? Does my butt look big? No, but Ryan Scott weighing in at. Can we say this? Is this too personal for the podcast audience to know?
I think I weigh. Well, to the best of my knowledge, last time I was weighed, I'm 136 pounds.
That's a fucking skinny man.
But that's up from, you said, a year ago?
Is that with clothes on?
Like, I think so.
Well, you've been bantamweight boxing for how many years though?
The hell?
Man, I believe that.
Yeah, you could have gone with that.
Yeah, like you could have been like, I'm trying to keep it down. I got to get back to 110. I got about 2 weeks left of
training.
Subway sandwiches.
Yeah, I don't think I ever hit 120 until well after high school.
Wow.
So,
but I love how for a woman it would be terrible for someone to say that they weighed over 130 pounds, but for a guy it's like 130 pounds.
Yeah.
God,
weakling.
Yeah.
I can't do anything to get under 175. Nothing I do.
does it make you sad?
I'll not eat for 2 weeks. I'll be like jogging every day, and then I'll finally get on the scale. And I'm like, this is it. I did it. And it's like, wah, you gained 5. Fuck.
Does it make you sad that I can eat anything all day forever and not gain a pound?
No, but see, it determines your lifespan, your metabolism. So if your metabolism is pop, that's you're like a mosquito. You're gonna die in like 5 years.
Oh,
it's true. So if you got the slow metabolism, you might be big, but if you can avoid the diabetes, you're good for a long.
Right.
Actually, part of the Wang story that you cut me off on.
Yeah.
And that was, I can't get back to it. I actually had a lot of people write me saying that they wanted to hear the full story of Wang Wang.
Wang Wang.
And I had many others offer to stealth edit the Wikipedia entry on Wang Wang for me. But the thing about him is that he doesn't sleep. Much like a hummingbird, he doesn't sleep, but he hibernates nightly. So there you go.
He doesn't
full on
hibernate.
Wait, what's the difference between sleep and hibernation?
Oh, it's much deeper.
It's much deeper, and it allows you to conserve. I mean, sleep, you use up a lot more calories and energy than you would while hibernating. Hibernating is like near coma state, so your pulse and everything slows down radically. So hummingbirds are actually the state that they're in on a nightly basis is much closer to hibernation.
So Ryan's like a hummingbird.
Yeah,
we stop aging basically.
I saw an article on the front page of the SF Chronicles website yesterday, front page news article that said that there were new studies that linked lack of sleep to irritability. Really?
Whoa.
Wow. How much do you get paid for that study?
Is that The Onion?
Yeah, I know. You are kidding me. I sent that article to everybody. You're not going to believe this. If you don't sleep, you're going to be irritable.
Lots of money poured into researching the obvious these days.
Yeah.
I saw a news story recently that was some study that proved that guys tend to go for attractive women.
Oh, I saw
Really?
that article too.
Ah.
Right.
And then conversely, it
Yahoo
said that
Personals
women
has
tend
a
to
thing.
go for signs of wealth. I saw that same thing. It's like, wow, that's really insightful.
Really?
Thank you,
They
science.
like wealthy guys?
Yeah.
Women are so shallow. We could say that. There's no females listen to this podcast.
There are probably one or two.
You think?
Probably. Don't you think?
If you're female and you listen to this podcast,
Start an indignant forum thread.
send me a personal email.
If you're female and you listen to this podcast, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just apologize.
Robert apologizes on behalf of all men. Do we have anything to talk about this week, or are we just gonna ramble?
Playing plenty of games.
We have
Talk about the game.
Wondering what we're doing, talking about weight.
Yeah, Sean's looking all disgusted, like he's gonna rip off his mic. Waste of my time this week.
No.
Can I point out though that you've made a very strong policy over all the time I've known you. I don't know how many years that is now, of never wearing. You one day you said like, this body is not for sale.
I didn't say it like that.
Yeah, you did, and that's when I was trying to pay you. And today you're wearing a Team Fortress 2 shirt. What's that about?
I am. I got it. One of the few game shirts I've ever worn. Usually what happens when you visit a studio or something, or when a studio visits us here, they'll bring a shirt or so. Hence the joke about certain people in the industry whose closets are filled with nothing but a different game shirt for each day of the week.
Mm-hmm. That is a cool shirt, though.
And I tried,
It is
I
awesome.
tried not to rock name brands. That's how I said it. I didn't say this body is not for sale. I try not to.
billboard.
So if you talk about, I'm preempting you. If we talk about Team Fortress
Because on
2
the front,
today,
look, there's nothing. It doesn't say
I know, that's
anything.
really cool.
There's
That's a
just
nice shirt.
an illustration, nice illustration.
that would look like a
of
cool shirt,
character
even if
class.
you didn't know.
But I like that you picked the spy one, because I can tell you picked it not because of its aesthetic qualities, but because you identify as a spy.
That's
in the
who I
game.
am, man. That's a whole part of picking those classes. And I hope like people. We don't usually refer people to our magazine, but I hope they do get to read the verses in story in the current issue. And that's the issue with Borderlands and Brothers in Arms on it, because we have some
On
fun
sale now,
talking about
$4.99.
what sorts of people pick each class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we talk about this though
It's-
today, I'm going to feel like you're talking about it because Valve gave you that
Gave
shirt.
me the shirt. Otherwise, yeah, because it was crazy. Like if you look back a few weeks ago, I had nothing to say about but ill, if anything, about Team Fortress 2. And as soon as I
Now
got this
today
bag,
you got the shirt.
with this shit on my back, I want to talk. That's why I didn't want to hear about your weight. I don't care how fucking much you weigh. I got to tell you about how good the spy class is in Team Fortress 2.
Because you got a T-shirt to say it.
I do. No, it's funny because you're not the first to point it out. Everyone's because I make a lot of
You
times.
do.
Though,
You make
the
a
game
point of it.
shirts are fucking hideous because
They are.
Like the ones Ryan usually
they
wears.
have like a wraparound image. It's the old.
Ryan's unzipping on Mike.
There's the shirt I got on.
That's a game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a shirt for WTF.
Work time.
That's actually a pretty cool shirt too.
That's a cool shirt.
It doesn't have
I'm just
the-
impressed that the mic picked up the sound.
You know, that was awesome.
Just for the record, that was a sweatshirt, not pants. That's later.
After the break.
I thought you're also taking care to note that while you're wearing a sweatshirt, you're not wearing sweatpants, which is a sign of class. Like speaking of that, too, I knew this kid in high school where every day he had a different what the fuck band was it? Was it Megadeth? Yeah, he had a different Megadeth. No, Testament. He had a different Testament
even
shirt
better.
for every day of the week and a different color sweatpants. But it was like gray, dark gray, light gray, navy
To
blue.
match the different.
Yeah, so every day of the week, his uniform would be a pair of sweatpants and a Testament T-shirt. Yeah, but those are like the nasty ones. Especially if you get a shirt and there's like just some big loud graphics and they wrap around the size, and it all goes back to the Hot Topic silk, pseudo silk things where you got Spider-Man or Todd McFarlane's dragon kind of reaching around the broad swath of your hairy back and breathing flames out your other armpit. That's dressed to win, dude.
Oh wait, I
Dressed
got
to
one on.
win
I have
fast.
one on too. Now that I think of it. I got. What does this say?
Got your logging camp shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, Eastvale Logging Camp. It's a WoW shirt.
Oh,
World of
okay.
Warcraft
I
shirt.
thought that was just like some thrift, the kind of thing you get in a thrift store.
Oh, really?
Like, Well, you know, it's
No,
just
the
some-
outer shirt is.
Actually, that
The
would have
flannel
been.
shirt I'm wearing is from a thrift store.
Well, no, nowadays they took that whole thrift store like mindset, you know, kind of like when grunge
Yeah, right.
became popular, and you go to Target and they have shirts with it's supposed to be ironic prints on
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
The
sure.
same way you see people wearing like Chairman Mao shirts and shit.
Right.
You're like, do you even know who the fuck that is? Like, there's nothing ironic or funny about that. Like, that's a piece of shit on your shirt. You think it's funny? I totally want to tell people that, you know? And then, I got it at Target. It's funny. Like, I got this other shirt, the hammer and sickle on it.
You should hand him the little red book. Read this.
Yeah.
You like?
Let's talk about the Cultural Revolution.
I didn't know you were such a fervent anti-communist.
Yeah.
Dude, that's not anti-communism.
You're like
To
the
be-
Nixon of One Up.
Although, I'm glad to see you approach politics with the same console war mentality.
Yeah.
Against dictators, actually, that kill millions of people with their
I feel like
ridiculous.
the console war stuff and politics have a lot in common. Just the way that people approach it and the way that they fight each other about it in ridiculous and stupid ways.
I think so.
You're kind of
too.
right.
Yeah.
Take a look on any message board, such as the 10-page thread on OneUp forums where
Yeah.
you've been in heated debate.
I really do like that now that the PS3 Xbox 360 war is so heated that PC, we're just kind of out of it. It used to be kind of like PC versus console in general, and that's still around. But the bigger war definitely, to me, feels like it's those two consoles.
Right.
Those people can't get along.
With the Wii coming into play
right.
too at times.
Yeah.
But it's very nice to be
We're just sort of on the side,
outside of that.
laughing at everyone.
because us we'll play console. It seems weird. I mean, I know there are people who just play PC and play PC exclusively, but it always seems it's such an easy move to say, hey, there is an entire variety of game experiences available on consoles that you can't get on PC, and get a console and play those too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't see so much of the, you know, we used to have the internal thing. Is it AMD or Intel, or I'm an ATI guy or an NVIDIA? There's people always find some point of difference to identify themselves with.
Mac
and to
PC.
to build an identity around. But yeah, I mean, like, Robert, you were in this thread.
Well, it wasn't just one thread. It was just, for some reason this week, I don't know, you ever have one of those days where you look at the message boards and after about 10 minutes, you're about to have a fucking heart attack
Yes.
from all the stupidity on display?
yeah.
That's known as rage stroke.
Oh, God. Something about reviews this week. People just freaked out. Specifically, Ratchet and Clank for PlayStation 3, of all things. A bunch
Because of all things, because it's it's a platform exclusive game.
Yeah, but I just
From a best-selling series, you know, and it's rightfully regarded, you know, as being
I played
something to look
just the
forward
first
to.
one, and I loved it.
But the fact that it's a Sony exclusive, I think, has something to do.
Yeah, well, but people were freaking out over an 8.5, I guess.
What?
Which is a phenomenal score.
As being low, too low?
Way too low. It really.
Wait, you mean our
didn't
score,
speak-
oneup.com? Or
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the
okay.
one-up score, and then I guess GameSpot gave it a 7.5, and that sent people into some sort of death spiral of suicide
People
watch.
jumping off bridges, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, 7.
But I just don't understand why people develop these like hardcore preconceptions of what a game is going to be like.
So
just
without
from-
having read these reviews
Yeah.
or this thread, let me guess. People felt we scored it low because we're anti-Sony biased.
a lot of people,
Probably some of that, yeah.
a lot of people, but a lot of it was just rage about this reviewer doesn't get it, or why didn't they post one of the higher reviews from EGM or blah blah. blah.
Who reviewed it?
Who was the one up review?
Do we
I
know?
believe that was
I didn't follow it.
Joe Rubicki in that one.
I think you're right. Yeah, that's right.
Who used to work for official PlayStation magazine.
Yeah, that guy didn't know anything.
Yeah, he's
and he
really
hates-
anti-Sony.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do believe, you know, not saying one way or the other. I mean, he has a record for being especially fond of games for Sony systems. I mean, if you do look at, you know, I remember comparing like the OPM scores to EGM scores, or directly in EGM when you have all three of them. As I recall, he would, you know, very often be the one to give the highest score.
He has a Sony tattoo on his ass.
But I'm not saying no. I'm not
For
saying
real?
it's.
Is that for real? No.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm making it.
You snorted krill off
I
of it.
totally.
The triangle, the
fell for
square, the
that.
circle, the X.
Oh God, I don't know. I just get really frustrated when I imagine that the audience doesn't really like give a shit about anything you're writing. That all they care about
all
is
that
this
number.
infighting.
Validating.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to
your
ask,
console
did they
choice.
bring up any of the points in the text, or was it all just focused on the number?
I mean, a few people were, and there was definitely some fighting in the thread from people who were thinking that it was ridiculous, but it was just a lot of, freaking out over the number. And the GAF thread was somebody who posted like an EGM scores thread, and that was the ultimate sort of, if you want to.
It had GFW scores too, but let's point out that no one even gives shit. No one said a word about our scores.
That's because our scores were just perfect. There was nothing.
And I think the people, the conversation is really coming from the points of contention,
Yeah.
And it's like they go in and you say, and of course it was just the scores, there was no text to accompany it, and they go in and say these are good scores or these are bad scores, and that doesn't mean, hey, an 8.5 that's a good score isn't a positive score. That's a high score. What that means is I approve of this score or I don't approve of it, and in almost all instances. These are scores for games that aren't available to the public. So how they're determining whether or not they approve of the scores is a mystery.
Right.
Yeah. In part, the mystery we're trying to get to, we're trying to resolve right now. Mm-hmm. And just, but as a sideline, more, that stuff it's just there. It's, it's kind of one of those things in life you shake your head at and say, wow. But they've opened up these discussions that are more interesting, I think, thanks, Ryan, on the nature of reviews and what people expect from reviews. And I think there's more to be said there because it's not us just sort of, wetting our finger and sticking it in the air and trying to figure out why people act. Why people sound like they're ready to fight. They're ready to fight you over in a parking lot of the Raiders Coliseum.
It's funny. It's one thing. It's one thing if you're the developer. Right, and you're pissed, and you have a vested interest in the review. But it is incredible to see people get so angry about a review why do they care so much? Why? Mean, especially if they haven't played the game yet. Yeah, that's a kind of a weird thing. They're like validating your system thing.
Yeah.
Well, when there's fanboyism involved, it's obvious. It's just like an 8.5 or whatever you perceive as low is obviously a blow against the system that you're supporting no matter what. It's damaging your system and ruining its chances in this horrible, horrible console war that's going on. So that's where that comes from, if it is fanboyism.
And I often wonder, do reviews even really have that big of an impact on sales? Especially like a 1UP.com review of a game? Is that
people argue that they do?
Well, hey, I'll point out again, like if review scores or whatever influence sales, games like Psychonauts or whatever would have been much more popular.
Okami would have sold a bajillion.
Sure.
At the same time, though, it's hard to say, again, there are games like BioShock or something, and you sort of want to think that the uniformly positive, glowing reviews might have contributed to that. But I think what's more, though, is just the discussion, word of mouth, people telling friends, what's going on now, or they don't even ask. It's unsolicited. When someone comes to you and starts talking about a game, and you haven't even asked them, say, hey, tell me something to play this week. Then it's just contagious. You say, oh, okay, I want to play that, Or you go online and every other thread is about BioShock, or every other thread's about whatever, Portal. Then you just say, hey, I want to get in on it. So I think that, the review scores don't matter. We know that they matter to an extraordinary extent to PR people and publishers. Right. And we're just actively doing everything they can to get the highest score, recommending to reviews editors who should review the game, what the qualifications are.
But this is completely tied into certain facts like that the PR people themselves will get bonuses based on how the game does on a site like Metacritic.
Right. Many, not all of them, so we can't
not
say everyone. But
it's
many,
not a blanket
many
thing.
Publishers, PR teams do receive bonuses based on the Metacritic score for the game. We've talked about that before. We said it's insane because the assumption there is that the PR person is influencing the score. Because it's like if it's a reward, you have to be rewarded for something you did. Well, of course, we don't want to think that they had anything to do with the scores, And, of course, when they recommend who reviews things, we just ignore that. A side effect of that is a lot of people talk about how, we want a fair review. We want the best review. We want the review from someone who just loves this series or this game. And this is why you always hear this talk about fans of the genre and this and that, in these reviews. And think about that for a minute. The downside is that your line of thought is entirely in line with the desires of a PR team and a marketing team. Because they very much say, hey, make sure, just do us a favor. Make sure whoever reviews this just loves this series. They love the last one. They love, movies that are similar in content and scope to this thing. And so by saying that, you do, for better or worse, you want the exact same thing as the marketing team. Another thing to keep in mind is that if someone reviews the game and they might disagree with you, I don't think that should be threatening to you. I don't believe we should look at reviews and say, this had better confirm, this had better provide further ammunition for me in the arguments I have online with other people that don't agree with me. So I can say, well, look, the guys at GFW agree with me. What do you say about that? Well, what if we totally disagree with you, but we make it very clear why we disagree with you? And in reading that and in listening to that, you can say, hey, at least I understand their point of view. It's kind of like arguing with the spouse or something, Yeah. It's like, hey, we agree to disagree, but I at least understand where that's coming from. But then you also know by reading that, we often talk about the difference between consumer report and critique, but I think a good critique will have a recommendation implicit in it. In the same way that if you're really thinking through something and talking about it, and you're engaging it thoroughly, you're going to read it and say, hey, if this person's point of view seems similar to my own, it's going to recommend itself to you,
Well, that's like a critic in any entertainment form.
Exactly. That's the thing. Is like this whole notion that there's always this talk. What's a game? What should games journalism be, or what should in this case it's criticism. The two are very different. Journalism is not reviewing.
Right.
What should it be? And it's kind of puzzling to me at times when we have these big these chin-stroking discussions on it, because it's like, well, why don't we ever just look at what works elsewhere? And and I think it does work the same. I don't think we have to rewrite the playbook, And instead of just writing these lists of, here's a list of good things and here's a list of bad things about the movie. A good movie review is never like that, Game reviews are almost always like that. And the difference is those are worthwhile. I think if someone says, hey, this is hot, this is not, and then those would be, slick graphics, compelling gameplay. These are all cliches. I want to come back to that in a minute because I have something to say about that. But these are things that your friends can tell you. These are things that you could find on message boards. They're just you go to a game-specific thread, and it's going to be full of these items, Mm-hmm. But I think, on the other hand, if you're a reviewer and you can put together some sort of like coherent, something that represents a coherent thought process with, the equivalent of a thesis almost, where like here I'm going to focus on some aspect of this game and the experience of playing it and put it together in such a way that when you read it, you think differently about the game. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about world-changing stuff here, but you at least you appreciate it in some other way. And again, if you disagree, it doesn't matter because if you could still buy it. If you heard 16,000 other people tell you this game is incredible and you trust them more, then go do it. But then maybe I can tell you. Maybe I can get you to think about it in some other way. So at least when you talk about it, and you'll understand your own point of view more too by the contrast.
Yeah. I'd actually rather see other forms of entertainment write their reviews more like game reviews. I'd like to see the New York Times have movie reviews with like a pro cons thing at the end. Pros, good script, excellent lighting.
Yeah. I don't know. I think along the lines of what Shawn's saying, like a really great review should be this kind of starting point for a conversation between the audience and the writer and the people reading and posting on message boards and talking to each other. It shouldn't be this like from up high. I think a lot of people negatively react to scores because they get the sense that it's somebody who's had the opportunity to play the game for anyone else, and they get to say this game sucks, and it feels very like authoritarian, whereas a great review should feel more like someone coming up with insightful things to talk about and inspire other people to talk about the game.
Exactly. Right. It's the point of it. Not here. I'm the final word on this, and it's absurd that some people still think that they're ever in a position to do that.
Mm-hmm. And the sad thing is, I think that all this emphasis on scores just makes reviews worse. I mean, it's not like everyone can admit. I think that game reviews are not fantastic right now. People are trying. But, there are definitely failings, and there isn't much room to experiment, though, because the audience is so focused on scores that if you go off on a tangent and the score doesn't match up with what they're saying, then they're just going to freak out that you haven't gone through all the pros and the cons, all the bullshit that you have to cover your ass with to make sure that you've done, an appropriate review. So you can never do anything interesting without...
It's, I actually had sort of like a post-review discussion with someone at EA. They wanted to get my perspective on Medal of Honor Airborne. And this is not a case of them challenging my review or anything, but they just wanted to supplement their understanding of it. And what was funny is they looked at every line I could tell, and it started to seem clear that they're like, well, you talked about this or that, And I was like, wait a minute, are you reading this in relation to the score where every single negative sentence is like, okay, so if a game is like... hypothetically, this isn't Medal of Honor anymore, but if a game is an 8 and there's only 2 comments that are explicitly negative, then each one of those must cost a point or something.
Right.
And maybe if they look hard enough, they'll find 8 positive things. You said, I was like, whoa, no.
Because
let's back out of that for a minute, and then...
Where there's numbers, there's math.
Right. Trying to do math with your words, yeah. That's crazy.
That's what people are imagining.
Well, one thing I do with like movie reviews or book reviews that I notice I do less frequently with game reviews is if I've already seen a movie or read a book, I will seek out reviews after that.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I don't necessarily do with much frequency with games. Like if I...
Right.
Because we're so immersed in games.
Well, but also because they lack the insight that you're talking about. Like you would go back, and I agree with you, Shawn. That's what I do. Like I'll go back and read a book review of a book I really like, say, because I'm hoping that they're going to articulate maybe better than I can think in my own head why I actually liked it.
Right.
Or what I disliked
about it.
The
very best ones will come out of left field and hit you with possibilities of appreciating the movie in ways that you hadn't even crossed your mind.
Right. Like I want to give a shout out to one movie critic who I really love, who's Mikkel Sal at the San Francisco Chronicle. Now I have to say, I used to hate this guy because he would quite often like totally dismiss movies that I thought were awesome, like The Matrix. Mm-hmm. But then I realized over time, like then I realized. So at first I was like, any review that Mikkel Sal, any movie he likes, I hate.
Yeah.
That was my first take. But then he would write one, and it would be an awesome review of a movie I like. So I'm like, oh shit, I can't predict this guy's taste. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, I realized, no, he just writes what he thinks every time, and he doesn't give a fuck what the popular, whichever way you can tell they're supposed to feel about a movie. Mm-hmm. But in every case, he always makes me think about it. Like I can totally disagree with him, and it'll piss me off that he's not validating my opinion. But if he hates it, there will always be at least 2 or 3 points where I go, fuck, in the review, like, he's right.
Yeah.
It did do that. Yeah.
There's this thing about, when you watch a great movie or you read a book that you're really into, after you're done with it, it doesn't leave your head. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always going, when that happens to me, to look at reviews and people talking about it. And it's this way to like further your enjoyment of it and continue to think about it and keep your head in that space. And
how often do we ever do that in our own industry?
I do it. I try at least all the time. When you play something and your first reaction is always an emotional level. This was great or this was bad. And then, well, why though? I mean, trying to figure out why. And here's to go back to the cliche thing. I think I'll bring it back now. I mean, you can make fun of the language that reviews are written in all you want. Ultimately, I don't think it's that important. So, but I think what's the problem with the cliches and stuff is that they're indicative of a mindset that operates within the confines of cliche. And so that's the difference between someone saying something interesting or saying, what they say, this is compelling or something. You say that so many times. And if you look around that specific word, for example, now in the past few months, that's the equivalent of good or whatever.
Compelling.
And you'll see it. Yeah, you'll see it over and over again. Do some work out there and you'll see to the point where I don't think you'll ever look at the word the same way. Yeah. But the problem then is, when you look at the game and you're like, okay, you're just evaluating it by this boilerplate, checklist, this really simplistic rubric of does it do this, does it do this, and you're not even really aware of you're not even aware of how your criticism's tuned. It's just like, I mean, you should really stop and think, what is it that I like about games or something? And this is the other subject of this is the difference between subjective reviews and then this chimera, this like illusion of the objective review that you see a lot of people talk about. This came up in the threads as well, and it's like, well, X and X website does the objective reviews, and it's fine. It's just different strokes for different folks, and you do the subjective ones. And I would rather say no. You're blowing smoke up your own ass and as well as your audience's ass when you even say there's such a thing as an objective evaluation of a piece of entertainment. Tell me, think for example of an objective and yet evaluative statement that you can make about a video game in a review that's ultimately going to be helpful. So if you were to say the graphics look great, that's a subjective statement, right? The notion of what looks good is going to differ to everyone. If you're used to playing, say if someone just got done spending a week playing Crysis and they move over and they play, whatever, Unreal or something, or the other guy just got done reviewing some game that doesn't look anywhere near as good as UT. I mean, their frames, your perspective is always going to be influenced by the things that, are going into it.
Well, it's all about those cliches you were just talking about. I mean, all the things that we've talked about in video games since magazines in the 80s, graphics, gameplay, AI, these sort of bullet points that we hit on all the time. Mm-hmm. They've been around for so long that I think that a lot of people come to think of them as objective, simple things that you can evaluate, that anyone can evaluate. And it happens all the time that people argue over it. Like AI is something that people argue about all the time, because how the fuck do you say, this is good AI or bad AI?
Right. There are a few statements that you can make that are objective that some people would take as evaluation. It works in 60 frames per second. To someone like that might be an evaluative statement. Is like, it runs really smoothly.
Yeah. Right. Or the resolution it can run in.
You don't have that with books or movies. You never hear those kind of factoids.
Well, it has 478 pages.
I think they don't have it because there aren't the same technical problems. Like,
we're beyond that with that.
Yeah, you don't watch a movie and say it's all in focus.
Yeah,
exactly.
Something also about subjectivity which scares people is that you assume, it's kind of like, moral relativism or something. That means everything flies. Well, that means you can go and be a Hitler or you can be a Mao and do whatever. It's in the games. It's like, well, that means someone's going to say that, what's a piece of shit game? What's Red Rock? What's Red Rock RTS? This is the greatest game ever. But the thing is, we all, as people, even though we have differences, we all have a lot more in common with one another in our taste than we ever have, apart. Than we ever have, a difference in opinion. And that just keeps things in this framework, So there's a discussion of good AI and bad AI. It's a really narrow window you're talking about here. It's not like someone's going to come out and say, well, the AI in Pac-Man's the most impressive thing I've ever seen, and then say that it's like non-existent in whatever, in Halo or something. But the other thing is, if you have pretensions of objectivism in reviews specifically, or not objectivism, sorry, objectivity, very different. And there's a connection, but they're different.
My BioShock review had the other one.
You try to dress it up in this neuter, sterile language, and you could dupe some people into thinking that, if you sound like Star Trek's Data, then you're being objective.
We have scientifically calculated that this game is an 8.8.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. Like, hey, Data, I heard you lost your virginity last night under a full moon. What was that like? Well, the male unit entered the female unit at this point in time, at 17.8 seconds, and it's like, this, again...
It's getting me hot over here.
These are, this might seem like an overly academic discussion, and ultimately they just want to say, hey, but these are games, they're supposed to be fun, and that's what we're talking about, fun, but why things are fun, and there's no objective answer for why things are fun. So I challenge anyone that really thinks that and I know who some of the proponents of that are, like over at GameSpot and stuff, think that they honestly believe that they do objective reviews, and that's a debate we could have on some third party forum, Gama Sutra or something. I'd love to argue it though.
But I think it also comes from that dichotomy of the fact that there are games out there now that are pretty unknowable, vague things that are pretty hard to quantify. Whereas there are still plenty of games that aren't very story centric, that are kind of old school, that you can just point out and say, this is a product like a Coke or a bag of chips that was made for a specific purpose, and I think because games are so many different things, they're harder to.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's some conflict there between BioShock and Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
since.
Anyway,
so
on to
down
something
on
funny. No, Pac-Man is fucking awesome, and Pac-Man Champion
Ryan,
Edition
come on, dude.
is excellent.
What?
Yeah, making all sorts of noise there.
Sorry.
God,
Pull yourself together there, man.
I'm gonna eat this
move your
cookie.
microphone up. Yeah.
Ryan's Robert's taking a cookie break there while Ryan.
Let's
let him chew for a moment.
It's good.
You okay now?
Keeps me from talking.
So were you saying Pac-Man has bad AI?
Oh, come on now.
It's not AI. I mean, but neither is what we call AI. And if you want to go in that direction, what we call AI in video games is not really artificial intelligence.
Let's talk about the mall now.
The mall.
The mall.
I had actually one last thing just back about when we were talking about the console thing. It's just, and this is an old point, but the thing that bothers me when I see all the 360 versus PS3 stuff or whatever is like, if you take one step back out of this industry, nobody else in the whole world even knows what you're talking about. Like, you're all just like loser geeks to everybody else. You know, like, it's so, to me, it feels so much like a divide and conquer. Like, and mine's better than yours. And meanwhile, you know, it's like ants fighting on an anthill, and then like a big foot's just going to come down and kill them all.
Right.
Can't we all just get along?
All get along.
Well, if you're going to put like perspective on anything we do, then it looks kind of bad.
Yes.
I mean, I think of all, you know, the people in my life who don't know the difference between, you know, who still think I make games, you know, for the PlayStation. What is that job you do? Do you work on the Wii? Mm-hmm. You know, they don't know anything. So what, you know, listening, you know, they would have no clue what you're talking about, that one game system means more than another. I mean, but I do feel like, I mean, that's a mundane point, but I do feel like it's tied into the idea of these reviews, that we can't ever get past this like rubric of, you know, of data points to look at, rather than being able to experience something as an art form and just take it for what it is, not focus on technical details, platform details, whatever. I mean, like to me, Portal's the most recent game that was just a phenomenon. Like, it was so great that everyone could just stop arguing for 10 minutes and not give a shit about what platform it was on, not really give a shit. Well, some people gave a shit about how long it was, but for the most part, everyone was just like, wow, that was awesome. Like, then it just became, why is Portal awesome? And describing what was awesome about Portal, rather than just like going through this thing, like proving why PC is great or proving why mouse keyboard is great or whatever. Everyone could just go, wow, we as gamers have this shared experience of this fucking amazing new thing coming in our life, and let's talk about it.
I think that's the deal. Like, okay, game developers, just make a whole lot more Portal-like games, and then we'll all shut the fuck up.
There's Robert's solution.
Yes, please.
Make more Portal.
I'll take one next week.
Here's something about the subjectivity thing, like about this is connected to Portal, where saying something, it's like you shouldn't be blabbing. I don't believe you should be blabbing about yourself. But at some points, it makes sense to put the cards on the table, so to speak, and say, here are some key things that inform my perspective. And so when you read this, you know, it's worth keeping this in mind. And now already I find that the Orange Box games are already changing my perspective, in that when I play other games, I'm looking at them through a lens that's been modified by having played Portal, you know. So, not to name names, but the length thing, you get to other games, and as soon as you find big sections and you realize that they're actually diminishing the quality of the overall game, I'm just like, wow, why didn't they just cut this out? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, and you're starting to see, like, sometimes less is more. Not the games need to be that length, but even if it's a difference between, say, a 7-hour and an 8-hour game, sometimes having a bad hour, it's very much, you know, like cinema. Again, there'll be a director's cut. Maybe there's like 5 versions of Apocalypse Now, and if you see the wrong one first, your whole notion of it will be changed differently. Even though the great parts are still great, the bad parts, like, bring it down.
Sometimes you're like, wow, now I know why they cut out all that shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, last weekend we rented the first Bourne movie, Bourne Identity, I guess. And I put the DVD in, and there were 2 choices. It was the extra extended edition, didn't say director's cut, extra extended edition, and then theatrical release. Mm-hmm. And a warning screen comes up, or not a warning screen, an info screen, whatever, comes up before the extra value, extra extended version. What, are you pointing at my ugly socks?
No, and you're like curling your toes in our faces and stuff. Robert's bag of chips.
I'm done with my chips. It's okay. You keep your feet up there.
I'll put my feet down.
I'm not offended. Sean's just a total obsessive compulsive
All right,
freak.
that shit's
like,
gross. That's where the term
gross. You're the guy who posts people like eating feces on the website.
But I don't watch people do it.
Like, you make us look at it.
That extra barrier between.
What do you mean you don't watch people doing it? You have sent me the grossest shit I've ever received on the internet. Like, I would just open up an IM window and there would be a link, and then it's some video of a girl taking a dump in a hot tub.
I know every
man.
every web link from Shawn, you have to pause your mouse button and go, do I really want to click this one?
Come on.
All right. So what was I talking about?
You were talking about watching the Bourne Identity.
Okay.
You have the option
Right.
of-
So yeah, right. This is one last thing that before you start the extra extended thing, there's a disclaimer comes up that says the director had nothing to do with this version. You know, and which to me is exactly what you're talking about. It's like, oh man, they just bloated it up.
Yeah.
And the director probably said, "Fuck that! I I edited this movie for a reason." So we didn't watch that one. So.
Yeah. I actually had a similar experience though, because I finished episode 2, Half-Life and Portal, and then went on to go and finish Heavenly Sword for the PlayStation 3, and that game has the worst, just section after section of stupid shit for you to do. Just like, here's 8 more guys to slice up. Shoot these guys in the head.
And you feel it was just to extend the...
Yeah, it was like reverse porn. So instead of having like stupid, story around the money shots,
okay,
they would have this big elaborate story that they spent a lot of money and time on, and that I was sort of interested in. But then they'd put you in the game, and it would be this insulting, repetitious, just boring thing that you have to do over and over again until the next section.
That's just because you're a PC guy.
It was all story,
I'm kidding.
No money, all porn story,
all
no
porn
money
story,
shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was really
that's a porn
frustrating. Yeah.
Fast forward.
Yeah, I tried. I tried to finish it, but I just stopped. There's some sections where you have to run around as the Twing Twang girl. I don't know if you guys are playing this at all.
Shawn is.
No.
Okay, well,
touch this one.
There's a section where you're this character who shoots arrows, and at first you start out and you're stationary, so it's just first person and you're shooting around. But then later in the game, you start running around.
Wait, she's
having
a turret.
So yeah. But hold on. But later in the game, you have to run around like Resident Evil 4 style and change to an aiming view. But with the sometimes the camera's out of your control, so you'll just sort of run into a corner and hope that you're looking at the right person, turn into first person mode, and then shoot. But most of the time, when you turn into first person mode, you're like looking at a wall, and then you have to swivel around, and there's a guy like axing you.
Oh, so you have to go out of third person, swivel around, third, and then go back and hope
and
that
then
you're
after you shoot, you use the 6-axis thing, which you can turn off, whatever. But it's very convoluted and very just insulting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're confirming my suspicion because I had played the demo.
Yeah,
and that last 4 minutes, and I decided from that I just did not want any part of this game. And I am starved for PS3 content like every other PS3 owner.
That's strictly for Shane Bettenhausen. That game right there. Only a Shane could love that game. Just playing.
I wish that I could just watch the cutscenes, because the game had nothing to do with the cutscenes like 90% of the time anyway, and I was interested in watching them. They're really well done, and I like the villain in the game a lot. I guess he's played by the Golem guy, whatever. From Lord of the Rings. You know this.
Gollum. And what? Circus?
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis.
Jeff's wife.
Andy Serkis.
And
my
it was
wife.
cool.
That's from
I'll see you in the fucking hallway, man. I know what you're
last
talking
week's
about.
gag.
Yeah, I called my wife Gollum. I'm sorry, honey.
Ouch.
Such an idiot.
She's just your precious.
That's right. Thanks for the save. Yeah.
There you go.
My precious.
That's what I meant. It was just a mixed metaphor. I'm sorry, honey. Yeah, but I wanted to watch the rest of the movies, but you have to play the game to watch the rest of the movies, so fuck it.
You can't just watch. You can't get the movie DVD.
There's probably a lot of
tell
good
me-
movies you haven't seen. I would recommend one of those.
Yeah.
Tell me about that 6-axis part though, because that's interesting. What you
Well, you
sort
just
of-
you shoot, you aim a little bit with in the first person mode, and then when you hold down the button, you go into like a slow-mo drive the arrow thing, which is actually when it's early in the game, I found it kind of fun, and I like motion control. I like Wii stuff. I'm not.
There's a difference, though.
Opposed. I know there's a difference, and I'm not even opposed to the kinds of games that break from like traditional joystick to some motion control here and there. Even though I know a lot of people find that annoying and crazy. But later on in the game, it just gets to be ridiculous when you're doing these really elaborate scenes where you got to shoot someone right in the head, you know, and they're 10 feet away from you, and it's just a pain.
And you're guiding it with the
you're guiding it with the motion control. You can change it. At least they give you the option.
I feel that control is the worst thing to happen to PS. I mean, of all the bad things to happen to PS3, that's probably the worst.
It seems pretty unresponsive compared to the Wii.
And just for the fact that it's there in that, like, instances like Lair where, you know, people just feel obligated to do something with it.
Do you have a PS3?
I do, and I've played it for about 3 or 4 hours since I bought it.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping the lesson.
You got to get everyday shooter. That's hot.
I have to.
That is a good game. Do you have that?
I do not have that.
Get that game. It's fantastic.
Shawn, you were saying what? The lesson learned is what?
Well, I hope Layer has, you know, the experience with Layer has taught developers that just because it's there doesn't mean you have to make it obligatory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope it's a quickly learned lesson is all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One last thing about Heavenly Sword, the ultimate sin, it will make you watch a movie section over and over again if you die. So even though you've seen it once,
and you can't skip it. Oh God!
I mean, to me, it's annoying enough that you can't skip it if you want to anyway, but you can't even skip it after you watch it once.
How in 2007 does that function not make it into a game?
Yeah, you need to have that.
That's like either that's hubris or like
it's total hubris,
arrogance or stupidity.
I would now knowing what we do, speaking with developers here and there, it's just vanity.
Like, we made this, you got to watch it. But, like, again and again?
I think they just knew that was the point of the game. It's like, why skip the point of the game?
We paid this CG studio, you know, $400,000 for these. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're going to watch them.
There really is. I mean, the first time, maybe. I could see if maybe. I mean, I don't agree. I mean, I think that you should be able to skip it no matter what, even the first time. But there's no excuse after the first time.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we watched your great movie. Fine. We know now that Princess Dalmatia, you know, has fallen out of the tower, and you gotta go get her the crystal, whatever the fuck.
Ryan, I think it's a good time to you got some beef with Spider-Man these days.
You do?
Like the person, or
Peter Parker himself? Are you calling him out?
Yeah.
Throw down.
Oh God, do we really want to get into this?
Yes.
Funny, dude.
Tell us.
Otherwise, I'd just be telling you about the new Left 4 Dead level I played and all this other stuff.
Oh, no one cares about that.
Game.
Care about Ryan's fight with Spider-Man.
We don't need to hear about
evil
Spider-Man.
Beef. What's up with Spider-Man, dude? What the fuck did they do to him this week?
All right. Well, I was just telling Shawn about this dumbass storyline I've been hearing about in the current Spider-Man comic.
Which comic?
I don't know. There's like Amazing Spider-Man and
Stupendous.
Awesome Spider-Man.
This matters.
Completely retarded Spider-Man. I don't
Slightly dickish Spider-Man.
Yeah. But so there's some huge storyline going on right now that I guess the ending was apparently leaked, where Spider-Man's Aunt May gets shot and she gets rushed to the hospital, and he doesn't want her to die, so he makes a deal with the devil.
The devil?
You
mean like Satan?
I don't know.
Mephisto.
Beelzebub?
He's a real character in a Marvel universe.
Mephisto.
Yeah.
Oh, he makes a deal. Okay.
And so the devil agrees to bring his old Aunt May back to life, making sure she doesn't die, whatever. But they alter reality so that Spider-Man never met Mary Jane and got married.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is how they're retconning?
Yeah. So, okay, okay, well, like I said, this is a huge spoiler for 2 issues that have not come out now, so,
Wait,
sorry,
did you say
Marvel
that?
fans.
I don't think you did.
You said that after the fact.
No, I said before I launched it that it got leaked, so.
Yeah, so you would assume.
That shit is so sad.
But,
it's
just
what
funny.
is I don't understand. What's the point of doing that? Like, why would they do that?
Well, I mean, they're basically, like, dialing Spider-Man back to, like, where he was, whenever.
I think a lot of people complained that when he married Mary Jane, that was when it jumped the shark or whatever. So like, well, let's undo that so it no longer jumped the shark.
There's enough like
I don't know.
Shark's been
Doesn't
jumped.
work like that.
If it's
like
jump back over the other way.
Going in circles. Just stupid.
I actually want to read about like Spider-Man in married life. That sounds a lot cooler than like the sort of puppy love storylines. I want to see Spider-Man
That'd be cool.
come home from work and his wife is like, can't you ever do a single fucking dish? in
Right.
this
He
house?"
comes home, he's taking off his mask, and she's
Yeah.
sitting there like all resentful of him. Like, sorry, I was just trying to take down Green Goblin. You know, got important things to do.
Great power, great responsibility.
Oh, that's
I told you
great.
that.
Well, meanwhile,
You know, the lawn could have used some of your amazing superpowers.
There was some statue.
TiVo's on the fritz again.
I was showing Shawn this some awful statue that they made of like Mary Jane like bending over doing Spider-Man's laundry or something.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was terrible.
Is that you?
The problem, though, is that after you told that story, no one stopped to say, okay, the devil says, Spider-Man, you can have your grandma, but I don't want you in this relationship. Spider-Man is like, when is the fucking Mephisto Dr. Phil?
That's not.
Okay, but no, if you get enough neck-bearded, grotesque man babies and birth defects to basically scream like he can't be married, and I don't understand this. There was once a time where you could paint with the with broad strokes and say, well, people who read Spider-Man don't want Spider-Man married because they ain't married and they can't relate. But ever since the advent of Yahoo Personals, I believe that 90% of Spider-Man readers are now married. Not happily. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's why the devil came in.
But here's what I don't understand. I quit reading comic books many, many years ago now, but for a long, long stretch, including in my adulthood, I was reading them. I was buying superhero comics every Wednesday. And hearing the story from Ryan after being out of the universe long enough that I don't know what the fuck's going on with any of these people anymore. Like, why? Like, they're always retconning. Everything's been turned around 800 times now. So why is another new one even a controversy? Isn't it at this point like it just assumed that they're going to fuck with it all the time?
If they do something unpopular, they're going to undo it. That's how it works.
Oh, this guy who's dead is old. Like, isn't Hal Jordan alive again now?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
See, he was dead last time I read it.
Now
he's alive.
The story.
Why can't they just come up with new comic book
I'm
characters?
sorry, go ahead.
I don't
No, you didn't.
understand that.
That's wrong.
Why does it got to be Spider-Man all the fucking time? Why can't it be somebody else?
Sean,
I lost mine.
come on in.
I'm sorry.
Bring it back.
It's all good. Go on.
Oh, no.
Dude.
Oh, there's a
Dude.
sad moment on the podcast.
Sean's giving me a guilt trip right now.
No, I've been trying to get something in for the past 20 minutes. It's all good.
Man, you never get to talk on this podcast.
But I got a good one.
Do you still remember it, or are you just
I
sulking
forget it
now?
now. No.
All right.
Moment's passed.
All right, the moment's
right.
passed.
It was a tie-in.
apologize.
It was a tie-in with soap operas.
Soap opera.
So you're just
Well,
gonna
yeah, there
fucking
you go.
hint at it now?
Right, now we can just make it. We can deduct what you were going to say.
Yeah.
That they just
should be
totally
easy.
that you could watch and you could leave a soap opera for 6 years and come back. It's either the same plot line or the plot lines are
No.
See, I'm baiting you into saying what you were going to say. So your point was what then?
Just that. No, it's like if you have to tell. I don't envy the people that write those stories because if you have to tell the same story basically for 30, 40 years, Spider-Man's been around at least like 35 years. You get into the same problem as a soap opera. Season 1, like dude gets a girlfriend. Season 2, like bitch gets married. Season 3, asshole gets divorced. Season 4, someone's reincarnated. The devil comes in and the zombies attack. You know, it's like in soap operas, like if you go in at any one moment, you have these assumptions and you think it's gonna be a bunch of people like crying or kissing once in a while, and like some old stepmom coming in and yelling at someone, and then her making out with stepdad. But then now and then you flip through the channels. And there's like a ghost or some kind of shit on there.
Yeah,
and that's the same. That's the same
Right, 'cause-
thing. That's why. That's when the devil comes in to tell Spider-Man who he's supposed to be tapping and who he's not.
This is why I think the British TV is better than American TV because they're much more inclined to like take an idea, a storyline, and end it after. They'll just do like, we're going to make the show be 6 episodes. That way the thing just stays pure. They tell a story, they get in, they get out. Whereas with American TV, because they want to keep it on year after year, the just as it relates to a running comic book or a running soap opera, even if just like a 6 or 7 season TV series, you're going to run out of ideas. You're going to run out of what made this thing great in the first place, and then you're going to start adding the ghosts or the reincarnation, or actually he wasn't really dead. Or
Well, yeah, it's got to be impossible for like a TV writer to like know the beginning of their story and like the end of their story, and not how long they're going to be forced to drag that out.
Because in most cases, there's like 40 writers, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing it on Heroes already in the second season.
But
His mid-shark jump.
I mean, in America, we don't stop anything that has any money-making potential. We don't close down the ATM. It's like, do you really think there's not going to be another Star Wars movie? Give me a fucking break. You know? If there's money to be made, there will be one.
Oh, it was so part of the PR plan to say there isn't going to be one.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Like, spring it on them. Oh, look, I changed my mind again. Aren't I awesome?
They'll make that stuff until people stop showing up.
Well, it's like with comics and stuff. It's like monthly, serialized storytelling, but
Well, they are so
nothing ever
obvious.
moves forward.
We treat
And it
our
can't.
How about these characters die and you make new characters, and that's
But they can't do that, right? I mean, they can't make them die because it's what Robert's saying. It's
they got
it's
comics
the
and
money
games
train.
People
to
would get
sell.
used to the new characters.
We treat our entertainment media the same way we treat our environment.
Wow.
That was heavy.
That is
You
thought.
keep
Kinda
going. There's
nerdy.
another $1 there. You keep going. Doesn't matter how bad it gets.
Oh.
You go to the last penny.
So we're going to...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back in a moment.
The Star Wars Battlefront Entertainment Pack includes all new, limited edition, lighter, slimmer white PSP with Darth Vader art and Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron game. Play on widescreen LCD or on any TV with video out.
This is the second time I've heard this claim in about a week or so, and I'm at a loss as to where it comes from. I could likely find plenty of pictures of him dirty and or sweating, but has anyone got any reference for this whole Superman doesn't need to go to the bathroom or sweat thing?
I seem to recall that Mark Schultz once said in Wizard that one of the things he most wanted to do was make Superman able to sweat or to urinate. Apparently, he wrote a scene that had Superman sweating. An editorial wrote back that Superman doesn't sweat. I'm sure I've seen him sweat, but then again, even if he has sweat glands, nothing on earth should make him exert himself to do it. And he can plunge right into the sun, so no temperature on earth should make him that hot. It's actually interesting to think about.
Oh, yeah.
One of Byrne's changes in the Superman revamp was how Superman now uses 100% of whatever he ingests for energy, and therefore doesn't create waste, including sweat, feces, etc. Why he felt this topic needed explicit addressing is beyond me.
I remember reading somewhere a long time ago that Superman doesn't have to eat, so you're right. It makes sense. He gets everything he needs from our yellow sun. I guess this would be why he doesn't need to urinate or doo-doo. Under the yellow sun, his digestive system completely breaks down the food which he chooses to eat and leaves no waste. Under a red sun, I'm sure he could and would do all the same stuff that we have to do. I don't know. That whole no sweating thing could play hell on a secret identity. Suppose Metropolis is hit with a heat wave. Not the villain heat wave, but a real heat wave. How would Clark be able to explain away not sweating?
He could just explain it as his body being really good at regulating temperatures. I mean, I know people who don't sweat at all in conditions that make me sweat gallons.
Superman doesn't sweat because if he doesn't feel heat or cold when he has his powers, it's... Dude, I'm going back. I just conflated fucking Earl Vest, the man hungry, mad hungry for the written word. When he has his powers, it's simply because the factors that cause people to biologically sweat don't affect him nearly as much. When he loses his powers, all bets are off. The idea that he doesn't have to use the bathroom, however, is absurd. We all use the bathroom, even me. So that's some hero web from a comic book form.
Dude, you're like the white Eddie Murphy. You could play like multiple characters.
Until I
in a
mix them
movie.
up. Until I mix them up and two become one.
Let's get Shawn in a fat suit.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I'll save it for next week. There's a very, very killer hero of the web. I didn't know how this one would go over. It was last minute. but I couldn't find it like right before we ran in here, and we'll bring it back to you.
Teaser.
So what do you guys think? Does he sweat?
Does he shit?
I think he doesn't exist.
Don't say that. They don't know.
But why are comic book like you'd never catch like a video game player doing this shit with like Master Chief or with the Final
haven't we
Fantasy
read
characters?
Heroes of the Web just
But
like that?
comic book characters.
We just did. We just read one about Master Chief.
I know, Jeffrey.
Oh, you
Again.
kidding me? I wasn't in on the joke.
Yeah.
I'm
It happens
stupid.
once a week, I think.
Where I'm not in on the joke?
Yeah.
I'm stupid.
What was the one where? Oh yeah, in Team Fortress 2, if you look closely on the documents case on the papers that fall out, you'll see the names of maps, and then you ruined it.
Yeah,
but despite the fact people still wrote in asking me what resolution they needed to see it and what if I could just tell them the names of the maps.
Wow.
And it was like that was in the context of the old Nerd's Tale discussion.
People don't do this with other. People don't. No one ever asks. Does Mary Tyler Moore take a shit?
Right.
Mary Tyler Moore.
I'm sure if you looked hard enough.
Have you ever
If I go to a Mary Tyler Moore forum.
It's because the internet didn't exist back then.
Well, okay.
Or why Fred Flintstone has a separate bed.
Have you ever looked at the IM?
Hey, I saw an Urban Dictionary. I'm sorry, but he just reminded me about Flintstones. Urban Dictionary. Flintstoning is now a verb.
Uh-oh.
To Flintstone is to move your desk when you're sitting at a desk, like at school, a desk with a chair. When you move it without getting up, so like you just lift it up and move and walk with your feet. Nice. That guy just Flintstoned over to Joe to pick up my pencil. I'm sorry.
No, what I was saying is, as far as people being like this about movies, have you guys ever looked at the IMDb message boards?
Yeah,
Yes.
and gone to specific actors' pages because there are some fucking crazy people there. Like,
Yeah.
it's just as insane. So,
Okay, so
Yeah.
just the internet
everything.
in general.
Yeah, I
Send
think
me
so.
links, man. We need to do them next
Yeah,
week.
heroes of the web.
I got one more Urban Dictionary thing that I just remembered from that same day because it relates to this podcast. It's when a bunch of guys get together to hang out and talk, you can now call that a brodio. so
This right here is a bro.
we're having a brodio.
And a Brodio.
So we could change our name actually to GFW Brodio
There's another one named.
That's a great
Sure
idea.
could.
or not.
That's actually
Brodio. What do you
It's
think?
catchy.
that'll work.
Yeah.
And we need some. We constantly talk about the possibility of renaming our podcast so that we can get people who don't just listen, who aren't just PC gamers.
Yeah,
to-
but GFW's still in there. If you got GFW Brodio, you still got the GFW part.
How about
it
just
kinda-
Brodio?
Just Brodio?
Yeah, that's it.
It kind of has that ring of an FM radio rock station that has another name, 97.5, the Brodio.
and then it cuts in with like a sample from Metallica's Enter Sandman or something.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Here's another Urban Dictionary thing: is krill. That's what I introduced myself.
Yeah.
to. That's just crack cocaine. But why are you laughing at? That's not funny. But no, the reason I brought it up was on my mind today. The reason I had krill on the brain is because one of the Game Videos guys comes over and he was asking if I'd been playing the review copy of Gears of War for PC.
Yeah.
And he was talking about RAM. I mean, he's way into it. Jason Bertrand's like he's a fiend for that Gears of War
On the
He's like-
PC specifically?
just in general. I mean,
Okay.
he's playing it again. He's like talking about. He was asking me why RAM doesn't just. Dude, what the fuck am I babbling about? Why Ram, the end boss, doesn't just keep wearing his krill coat? Because the krills are those flying things, and when you fight the boss. Spoiler alert, I guess. You shoot the krill. The krill protect him, and he's like, "Well, dude, the krill protect him. Why did they ever leave him? He could just stay alive forever if he kept him."
Because then you couldn't finish the game, dummy.
And then so I told him, that he was like that krill was just like a euphemism for crack cocaine, and that he gets ripped up, and that that's how he gets all the underlings in that game to like do his bidding and stuff. They're all like jonesing for like he doles out krill.
Nice.
Well, I started playing this
That's explained in the extra
Gears of
campaign.
War for the PC. Just to turn it into
Yeah.
a gaming discussion.
Okay,
But I'm not that far into it, and so far, I don't know.
really?
Yeah,
they
I
seemed
don't.
really excited about it.
I don't know. I have to say up front, I have not made it out of the very first area of the game.
Oh, well.
So we're talking super early. I just have to say that my gut reaction, and this is a game that I am playing, I want to play. Perhaps it will get better. So this is just a gut reaction. And the gut reaction was, And I played Gears of War on Xbox 360 all the way through, and I liked it a lot. But I had a huge disconnect in my gamer brain when I turned this game on and started and was playing a shooter with the keyboard and mouse, and I couldn't run unless I pressed a button. And then the button didn't let me run freely. The button takes me into cover, right? That's the conceit of Gears of War, right?
Yeah.
You don't run. You're like creeping from area to area, but then you can run for cover.
I'm just trying to figure out why it would be different, because if you're used to playing Halo, it's still just as odd to you.
I don't know either. I'm bringing this up because I couldn't figure out why that
you're
was
talking about
the
the roadie run thing, and then it'll, like, if you're doing it around cover, then it'll put you into cover.
Yes.
And it feels weird on the
feels
keyboard.
weird on the PC to me. I accepted that game conceit on the 360. On the PC now, I'm feeling like I don't have any freedom here. Like, what if I just want to run to cover, and I want to run right here in this place, and I want control of the run. I don't want the button I don't want the button doing the run for me.
I see what you're saying. Like, the consolidated
you would have to do
actions on a
I see what you're
controller,
saying.
whereas on a keyboard you could have had like two different options. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the running in there, I don't know. You get used to it. It is like you're saying, it's like NASCAR, where if you play multiplayer, you have this mindset where you want to rush and get the weapons first, pick up the grenades or whatever it is. So the trick is to run and to avoid the obstacles, which will make you stick to them like cover. So you kind of anticipate the corner, like again in a NASCAR. You prep for the perfect curve and go around it. It's just different, but yeah. I mean, I'm more worried about at this point if the game was it kind of like it had its time last year, and now with all these other experiences, that the one note nature, because Gears, I believe, hits that one note so very well.
Yeah.
But just hits that one note over and over again. If that's really going to,
Yeah, I mean, playing it after. I hate to say it because we keep using this comparison, but playing it after the Orange Box stuff
BioShock and all these
and
other,
BioShock, I just felt like, oh my god, this. Yeah, I did this. I mean, maybe it's hard to say because I did play it all the way through already on another platform. So maybe if you're a PC gamer who's never experienced this is going to feel really cool to you. I can't judge that yet.
Right.
So it's possible.
I'll try the multiplayer.
The other thing I didn't like, which is just whatever, I was talking about this before we podcasted, is if you go to the, they have achievements just like they do on the PC, but you need to be connected to Windows Live, the PC version of Xbox Live, to get the achievements and to do other things to connect in multiplayer. But the interface screen for even doing things like connecting to Windows Live or for checking your achievements, they've got the Xbox Live language up there on the screen. If you want to press B, the red B, press A. They're using the actual controller buttons on the screens themselves, which that's fine. We've seen that before in games, and we know that you can use this game with a controller. And in fact, of course, if you can use a controller, why aren't you just playing it on the Xbox?
It's like all psychology for you.
But it is psychology.
Find it offensive
I do find it offensive because they've gone out of their way to make a big deal about the cross-platform capabilities, the fact that this is now a PC game.
Yeah.
So don't put your fucking controller language on the game then.
Auto detect when you put the USB.
Yes,
360
if my controller's
in,
connected, which it wasn't, then you can have that on there. But I did not have that in there, so don't tell me to press B.
You don't get is that the PC is the Xbox 720. Shh.
Oh.
Not to mention
Spun
the
around
fact
twice.
it's the Gears of War a year later with some extra degrees of Ratitude in it.
Right. But I just wanted them to remove that stuff. I wanted them to say, hi, PC gamer. We're bringing this game that was out on another platform to you now. We want you to have this great PC shooter experience. So here you go. We have custom tailored this to be for you. So therefore, we are going to assume you're using a keyboard and mouse, like 99% of PC gamers, and not talk to you about those other things, unless we detect it on your machine.
It was particularly offensive with Shadow. I mean, that's one reason why Shadowrun bombed so bad on PC, is it's like, it was so clearly made for not just the interface and everything, but it was so clearly made for people on 360. And it was like, okay, you're going to launch this initiative with that in Halo 2, with these console games.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, even the bigger nuisance there was to say, well, this is your chance to pit console players against, PC ones and see how it falls into place. But then it's like totally slanted toward the console people. And it's like, okay, way to piss off
Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, I've now posted that famous photo of PC Shadowrun players that was in the new issue of our magazine. You can now find it up on my blog, and the folks over at NeoGAF have it on the GFW thread there. So if you want to see a great photo of happy PC gamers playing Shadowrun, go check it out. now you know what we were making fun of.
Yeah, it was funny because right before the podcast, I found like an old penny arcade where they were making fun of an ad where someone was playing the box art to Warcraft 3.
Yeah,
right.
It was awesome. It was awesome comic. Any of you guys play UT3 demo since last time we met?
Not me. That's bad.
No one.
Next topic.
End of topic.
What do you got to say about it, Sean? Are you liking it more, hating it more?
What's your beef, man?
I'm not liking it. It's about the same. It was one of those cases where when I first turned it on, I realized I wasn't that into it, but I didn't know why. And the more time I spend with it, the closer I think I'm getting. But before that, there's just some like general like corny, cheesy things about it, which isn't necessarily so bad. But for some reason, every time I put the game down, like that's Greered, which is like gross and weird.
Gross and weird.
Yeah.
This is Sean's new verbal of the day.
Week.
Yeah.
That's Greered, man. No, but part of it is so ridiculous. You get in, these characters and people are hitting the taunts, and you hear "F yeah," and that's not me censoring myself. That's what it
They
says.
say F yeah?
Yeah, F yeah, F yeah, and then you hear "Whoa, I'm on fire," and then "Oh, you'll feel that one in a moment." It's like, what the fuck is that?
Haven't they been doing that in that series like for forever though?
They have, and it's very like much like Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, this voice actor right now, I hate him. You hear him over and over again, yeah. But then like, there's just this ridiculous joke. You just go around and you just mash that key the whole time, and your face pops up in the corner, and then you hear the taunt. So like, I'll get in there and just do that. I'll bind it to a key that I can hit with my pinky all the time, like shift. And so you just unleash this constant taunt of, yeah, I'm on fire. And in addition to that, and people really get mad.
Yeah.
They're like, shut up. And then they eventually, because there's no, like, for some reason, I have never been in a UT3 demo server with an admin. No one can kick me. And they eventually, like, and it says it to both teams, and they're like, I'm out of here. That's it. I'm out of here. And people get so mad. But I tell them, like, it's creating an emotional high point when I play. They're like, dude, you're not even doing it when you're getting a kill. You just keep fucking pressing the button. And then my response is, F yeah!
There are people listening right now who are like, God, Sean's an asshole. You're like going around like fucking with people till they leave your game.
This isn't new.
Why did they put that in the game?
Do you at least get to select your taunt, or is it the random taunt like
It's
one
random.
of those poison like target or something where you press the hand?
And there's another default in there, whereas it's like text to voice. And if you have that on, anytime someone types something, you hear the Stephen Hawking voice come in and repeat it. So the first time you play,
Not literally
it's
Stephen
just
Hawking.
this like incessant torrent of babbling computers. What the hell is going on? But it's like people talking about video cards and stuff. Creates an emotional high point. F yeah, emotional high point. And just like, so you spam that and you double up with the text.
That actually sounds really fun.
That does sound fun.
Like,
I remember,
spell the
it is for
shooter.
3 minutes.
I remember when I was playing Team Fortress 2 with you, I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, and you and I we kept just run the whole level. You and I weren't even talking about how we were going to do it. We were just both doing it. We kept hitting the medic key nonstop. Medic, medic, medic.
That's not even as bad.
But I got yelled at because I was doing it, and this was after you left, and I was a medic. So I kept doing that, and then some guy goes, "You asshole! You are a medic." Why you? And I said, "Yeah, I'm saying I am one. I'm saying I'm available. That's why I'm doing
Just
it."
announcing
Medic here,
services.
medic.
Trying to communicate. So there's a few things that I'm getting closer to figuring out what it is. I've been mainly playing vehicle CTF, and it seems kind of bloated to me. Like someone comes up with an idea and they say, hey, this will be cool. And it does seem like a cool idea. And then they put it in and maybe it doesn't work the way that it was, proposed to work. And they leave it in, but then they say, well, we're going to have to find some other solution. And then they keep doing that. So an example would be you take the impact hammer and you say, let's give it an alt fire. which would be hitting mouse 2. Let's break it down for Robert before he says, what the hell am I talking about?
Mouse 2?
The impact hammer is your melee weapon. Is that P? The impact hammer is your melee weapon, and if you as in all Unreal tournament games, they have a primary, secondary, and sometimes tertiary fire modes. And the second one,
You talking syllables?
is an
Like lots of them.
yeah. Okay, so let me say this, man. Let me say this thing.
Okay.
So the EMP alt fire on it is supposed to eject someone from a vehicle. But the problem is the majority of the vehicles fly so fast and hit you so quickly and kill you so instantly that like there's no point to it. There's no way you're going to hit anyone and knock them out. So maybe it works for a tank or something if you're lucky enough to get up beside it and you can eject them from that. So it seems cool. But then you're like, okay, well, what do you do against? They have this Manta is a sort of a little flying skiff vehicle, and it's super lethal because it just runs everyone over. And like, what do I do about this thing? It's just going to run me over instantly. So there's a feign death key. And you're like, hey, that's pretty interesting. But of course, you're adding another layer of complexity to it. So you feign death, but then you realize he doesn't see that your name, it doesn't say he killed you or anything or fake him out in that way. So he just turns around and either shoots you or runs you over again. And the second time, by hitting his alt fire, he lowers his vehicle to the ground and then he scrapes you off the sidewalk. So what happens then is that the feign death key is basically bend over and spread your cheeks for the Manta key now. It's like, here comes the Manta.
Well,
What
they
do I
couldn't
do?
call it that.
I have a couple options here. Do I let it run me over, or do I lay down and let it run me over? Then so to counter the lethality of vehicles, they add rockets, the Averill rocket, and it locks on by holding one button down, and once you're locked onto someone, it's instant. You just press the button, and if something's on the screen, it will lock to whatever vehicle's on the screen, and then you press fire. As long as you kick the other one down, it'll track it and blow it up. There's very, very few circumstances where you can evade it. There's no countermeasures or anything. And you ask people, what the hell are you supposed to do about that? And they say,
chaff.
you got to get out of the vehicle. Like, that's great. What if you're flying? There's no parachutes in this game. You got to get out of the vehicle. So, and then you add to that this vehicle CTF, and it's this very small map. You're going back and forth. And hey, the quick moving vehicles like Mantis and stuff, I understand. They seem like great, in and out cap vehicles because while you can't ride the vehicle while you have the flag, people can attach to it with this sort of tether line and follow you along. All that seems great. But then there's like, why is there artillery? Mobile artillery and the aircraft and all these other things? It just kind of seems like superfluous, It's like they don't.
Wouldn't they be support vehicles for?
But for capping this flag across the map, that's basically there's one side and there's a blue flag and there's another. And you just go across this bridge or beneath the bridge. It just I don't know. It just doesn't work so well for me. And then the other significant issue that I can put my finger on is that you never know what killed you. I mean, in general, in games, you guys play shooters. Is that you know how annoying that is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When it's just all of a sudden you're there doing something and then it's like
you're dead.
You're
looking
dead.
sideways at the ground.
Yeah.
And
they don't zoom in on the guy who killed you or anything?
No, there's no death cam. It'll say who did it, but you don't know what they killed you with, and that's
Really?
part of the
doesn't
problem.
even have an icon of like what gun
it
they
doesn't.
used?
Not that I'm able to see. No, and it's just like
Wow, because that goes back to like Doom and Quake.
Right.
Did that.
And so what happens, you kind of just feel like you don't build up this sense of rival. Even for some reason, even though it says his name, I never build up this kind of rivalry and the gratification you get from playing multiplayer games. It almost feels like I'm playing bots, even though it's human, which is weird. And that thing is all important, I'm realizing, for me. When I play Battlefield, if I'm a single infantry guy and I take out a whole squad, I feel like there's just that little oomph, like when you're playing sports or something, or even if you're playing, ping pong or foosball, when you win, it feels good. And I just don't get that ever. Even when I go on a crazy spree and kill 14 dudes in a row.
Maybe it's simulating what it's like to be a psychotic mass murderer.
Yeah,
so you just kill 18 people and I feel nothing. All I feel is the emptiness of my soul.
They need a key for that. Wow. I feel empty. So that's I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is that's causing that, but yeah, it's just not there. And I've heard other people say the same. They're like, yeah, I don't really feel like, don't feel that like, suck it down when you're killing, and when you die, it's just kind of this arbitrary. There's no spawn time. You're just there. You are again, and kind of roaming around. And it's not a horrible game, but it's just not. It's not doing it for me for some reason.
There's a box quote.
It's not doing it for me.
This is the beta, of course.
Right.
I'm not even playing the onslaught mode or the any of the big new stuff that they put in the game, but
Remains to be seen. But they have some serious competition this year.
yeah. And there are very few servers up for it, surprisingly, compared to like say when Team Fortress 2 beta came out. How many populated servers there are? There are very, very few with this UT3 demo, which seems kind of.
What I'd like to know, and I know we're running out of time this week, is how popular, how populated the enemy territory servers are right now. Because
a lot of when I've been playing a little bit, a lot of, and I do like that game.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing I don't like it as much as Battlefield 2. It's a different game.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like it a lot. And it's a lot of Australians and Brits and Germans and stuff. So it seems like a lot of non-North American, like it's doing well in other markets.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out. We gave it a very good review in our magazine. So
I think that's a great game, and I do definitely like putting that. So far I really prefer it to the demo, although it's not the most fair comparison.
I think it's just suffering from TF2 timing.
Yeah,
enemy territory.
Yeah.
So many games out right now,
And also the opposite of last
even
year.
of other genres. It's like I continue. Like now, it's weird. Like I still play opposing fronts a lot. We had an awesome 4v4 game against some people that listened to the podcast the other night.
Oh yeah, cool. Want to give them a shout out here?
I forget their names.
Listener A, B.
Well, they
C,
kind of
and
just
D.
joined. I added a bunch of people
Okay.
to the friends list, and maybe next time we'll set things up more. Talking, I felt bad because some of the people on my team were talking shit. Because there's just a tradition.